Hey, what's up, guys? Got another deck for you today. This was another deck list off the suggestion post that I have on Retro, and of course, Ryan O'Malley suggested this one. We got good old Perceptive Garlic here. To start off with, obviously, you got his full suite here, all playing around the Dragon Balls. Of course, he wants to gain anger, so that's what the theme of the deck is mostly based around. Um, Matter of fact, the guy actually did top cut a regional back in set three with Black Garlic Jr. I still think red was probably better back. Well, yeah, red was probably still better back then. But I was thinking about digging up that list, but I really didn't feel like digging up all the way down to season one articles on Panini's website. So if anybody wants to, by all means. But I don't have that much motivation to pick that out. But here we have the deck. So we start off with our events. As you see, everything we're trying to do is giving us anger. So we have Black Commanded at a 3 here. We're going to be passing probably a good amount, so that passive anger is going to be really helpful. Of course, we got Black Schematics at 3. More Endurance gives you 2 anger. We don't have any board hate other than ball 4, so stealing people's drills is kind of nice. Uh, of course, we have Times Warriors 2 at 1. You know, necessary card. Need this card. Stare down, of course, we're trying to disrupt my opponent. You could run Sphere, I suppose. Honestly, without meditation around anymore, at a 3 of, Sphere isn't really as important to anger gain denial, or at least protection, as it used to be. And I don't really give a shit what events my opponent's playing. So, you know, I would rather just stare down their anti-anger cards, really, and their aggro cards. Next we got Tug of War 2. It's really our only anti-anger in the deck, other than Ball 2. But we're not playing it really for the anti-anger, or necessarily even the ally kill effect. It's more about uh, the deck shuffling, which deck shuffling is very strong, especially when you're playing Dragon Balls. It'll help us kind of get them off the bottom when we're taking damage, which we won't mind taking damage if we're on level 2. Specifically, of course, these are out of order, because level 2 wants us to take damage and have balls revealed. But once we do that, we're going to want to shuffle that deck. So that's what Tug of War is really nice for. It also has synergy with the Mastery, which is one of the few things, um, you know, I don't know. We could play more synergistic cards, honestly, but all the Destroy Effect cards are mostly for, they just don't give any anger, really. Um, and we don't want to sit on level 1 or 2 all game, and we don't want to leave it up to a couple anger cards in our deck and balls getting hit on level 2. So, but at least the Master can give you anger, potentially, and the stages are going to be really nice. Being that we have Loyalty, your modifier generally protects you against physical decks, but, and he's gone. See you later. Probably should have just made my game private. Oh well. People are probably thinking, what the hell's going on here? So we got one of Optic Blast. This is definitely kind of, maybe some people don't think it's necessary. I like it as a one of. I mean, why not? I can always throw it back in my deck. I don't really have any selective rejuve, but 2 endurance on it. Somebody thinks they're cheeky beaky, and they're gonna take my ball when I'm on level 4 or I'm on level 2 or 1. They won't do it when you're on 3. They're smarter than that. They won't touch your balls when you're on 3, but you know, we have it there just because it'll be nice to be able to keep the ball, and endurance is good, so you can always pass on it. We got Counterblast at a 3. Of course, Counterblast being key card. Again, it'll help you in those energy, life card damage matchups a ton. Between that and the Master giving you stages, there's some synergy to protecting yourself. So, but it is a 2 anger card, which is really good, and that's just what everything that we're going to be playing is going to try to be 2 anger. We got Black Swirl. I like this card a ton in Black Anger. I try to put it in every Black Anger deck I can, because with a lot of decks being able to tutor cards to their hands, the likelihood of calling this card right goes up exponentially, especially when you're playing against decks like Supreme Kai, even Vegeta to an extent. When he's doing Mastery, or when you think that he's got certain power cards. Most decks, you can at least make a pretty good educated guess if you have a decent idea of what they're playing, and that is a strength of a lot of the early Black cards, and especially set 1. Black is like having good deck knowledge and good game knowledge, I really don't think it's that hard to pull this card off well. And worst case scenario, you could just don't know what you want to call, you just call a block. But you can turn it to where you can shut down an opponent's entire combat by killing a certain card that they might have a 2 of in their hand. It's a really strong card though. It sucks they can't crit for you, but the anger is where it's at, along with the active effect is so strong. We have a 1 of Palm Blast. Oh, whoops, sorry, this should be 2 of. There we go. This is 2 of Palm Blast. It's kind of the same theory, kind of a mindset as like the tug. We're just really kind of throwing it in there for the shuffle effect. It is an anger card at least, and it is a potentially critable attack if they don't want you to have it back. But you're pretty much probably never really going to crit with this attack, but it's really nice that it just shuffles your deck. It fits really good in this deck, and honestly, you could almost 3 of it over maybe the tug at all, but I think having a little bit of that tug utility, being that tug doesn't require stages, tug is an event, so you don't have to throw it in opponent's block, and it's a little anti-anger. I think tug goes a long way. I don't really think there's many allies that hurt this deck. I mean, Oolong, so I guess Oolong alone and like maybe like a Nappa Yajirobe kind of deal could hurt you. For the most part, I mean, go on ally too. I mean, for the most part, you don't really care about allies, but it's good to have some answer to allies. That's why we have the tug. But this Palm Blast is a very phenomenal card. I've been really enjoying it in a lot of black decks. It does a lot of work. Next, we have 2 Sagacious Strike. We're getting. Why don't we finish out with, yeah, okay, we'll start with the freestyle attacks because we did for the energies. 2 Sagacious Strike, you gotta run this if you're running balls. Kills Wallbreaker. Not many people run Wallbreaker anymore, like ever. Wallbreaker's just so crappy in so many matchups that it's just not worth it unless the field's heavily in PPV, but Sagacious Strike, being able to just play loosely with the balls a little bit more when you're not on 3 with this card, super awesome. And of course, when you hit 4, nobody can cap your balls. Hi, Tom. And of course, here we are, Black Dash. You know, 2 anger card. And, you know, if it hits, you get to grab a video. But, you know. You know, it's pretty good. Oh, Tommy, he's a good guy. We got Black Combo Course. This is another counter to the Wallbreaker kind of deal. Yep, I'm giving giving me a shout out. I'll be watching tonight. Mark Bulger is garbage at this game. Are you kidding me? He literally just like gets the luckiest bullshit on me. Just kidding. But am I kidding? I honestly don't. I haven't played so much Z. I don't even fucking remember at this point. But Mark Bulger is a bad player. Super bad. Worst player. The worst. And I know good players. This guy is the worst. And I'm super bummed that he never came and visited me when I went out to East Kai. Or sorry, Dennis Bowl a year ago. Seriously disappointed. Really disappointed in Mark. Same with Tommy Sheeble. You know, everyone talks about how much they love this mustached man, and here I am, rocking a mustache, and nobody says something. But let's test some of these garbage decks I'm making. Duh, of course Mark's playing. Alright, I'm extending this video a bit longer than we need to, but this is definitely entertainment. So we have 2 Searching Technique, of course. You know, it's pretty good. I love this card in all my black anger decks, black decks in general. But and I can't even spell. Later. And of course we got black power up. You know, I think this card. You know, I like to put Search Technique into 3 like this card, but having this, especially for stage replenishment and just being able to end combat, especially once we get on level 4, really solid. Huge dead draw you might want in combat. Just combat control in general with anger decks is really strong because you don't always want to be in combat long. Again, it's the classic. You enter 2 anger card, they throw an attack, you anger block, end combat. And you can loop them with Ball 7 to help you stall out a game. So really nice. And by looping Ball 7, here comes, of course, Black Declaration. Black Declaration not being banished after use either. Very nice card. We don't have any discard outlets for it, unfortunately, but you know, it does a really good job at doing what it does. Um, looping your Dragon Balls, giving you a little bit of board tech. Again, between this and Tug, at least we have some answers to allies. We do have some answers to drills with schematics in this card in Ball 4. Answers to setups with this in Ball 4. So there's very slight board hate. Pretty light, but that's kind of the nature of playing black. Just ultimately though, an awesome card to help you recycle those balls. Next we have Dragon Radar. Of course, being able to play your Dragon Balls, in a ball deck is important. So we have After Image Technique. This is a great card. Of course, to shout out Tommy, who was hanging around a bit. Great card. It's just this fucking wall of text card. But it's a very good card. It really great for ball decks. Gives you a lot of answers. Gives you an answer to Wall Breaker. Again, I'm talking about Wall Breaker a lot, but it's just something that you really need to still be aware of, I think, when building an PPV deck, because if you aren't, and you're not teched for it, and someone slaps on you, you just lose an entire game if you don't have answers for it. It's good to at least have, maybe not necessarily super dedicated answers, but, something that can deal with it in your deck easily enough that it's not like a hit effect only, like Static Shot, as being your answer. I think Meal Kick still needs to be ran in a red deck, for example, if it's Anger. But anyway, After Image just does so much for you. Lets you top deck a ball, recycle balls, get rid of black captures and stuff that you might want to worry about, or maybe it's impatience. Maybe your opponent's got Tree Might, maybe they got Clench. Perfect. It's just a really good card, and honestly, playing it for the block aspect is really nice too, just against an aggro deck, especially when you get on level 4. We got Smooth at 1, of course. We are going to be leveling, but it's still so strong of a drill. And of course, Absorption Drill in the same aspect, so strong of a drill, and it synergizes with your mastery very well. You get to choose whenever. And you can even top deck what you decide to destroy. For that reason, I got really close to throwing Shoulder Charge in, purely because of the Absorption Drill and the mastery. But, it not giving anger really hurts it. I could see it making it in somewhere maybe, but it would be a hard fit. I mean, maybe over Tug of War, but I just think that shuffle effect is so good, and having a little bit of anti-anger without being able to having to throw an attack into like an opponent's block, really strong. So maybe that's a spot for it. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you don't think I need it at all. Comment. Hope, maybe I'll be putting some games on some of these just garbage decks and recording the gameplay. So we'll get on the block line. This is the final cards of the deck, other than the Dragon Balls. These are all obviously very strong effects. You're going to run Namek Dragon Balls 90% of the time. Very few times are you going to run Earth Dragon Balls in a deck. As far as like a full set goes, Kami being like the one MP where you actually want to run the full set of Earth Balls. But we start off with Black Resistance here. Of course, 3 Endurance. That's a big part of why it's in here. I like Black Corruption too. If there are people throwing more energies, maybe I'd consider it. And if we weren't Garlic, who just has all these life mods, which we can double, energy decks don't really matter against you. Android Efficiency Drill's annoying. That card is actually probably the most annoying thing, and that's probably a good part of why we have schematics in the Declaration in here in the Ball 4. That would be like one of the few cards that can ruin you. That Orange Freezing Drill is another one. Can hurt you quite a bit. Ox King. But for the most part, you don't worry about energy decks too much. And Resistance is just so nice of the Endurance. I mean, we're going to try to race somebody anyway, and we do have Ball 2 that we can loop if we have to, so we have Energized Guard at 3. Of course, I love this card. In any kind of milling deck, it's an Omni block, because if you pop a mill off on them, now granted you have to sequence. If somebody enters on you with an energy attack and you have this in your hand, well, woe is you, but again, we have modifiers. But if you're really worried about energy attacks, you can always just pop your Mastery to get the Omni. Otherwise, it's a anger swinging card, which every card that we want to be playing, we want it to really be giving us anger or helping us with the balls, and I think most of the cards in this deck really accomplish that well. Black Stop, of course, being a 3-of block. We're running this over delay because of the anger. We want the anger. If I can see your hands, I don't really care. If I can see your hand, honestly, like I can play around you way better than like a black delay messing your hand up. And black delay is really good against like Broly, Future Gohan, Hercule. But it's not as hot against like Majin Vegeta or a lot of these hybrid beats decks, or MP, decks that are mid-range that are throwing a lot of energies to, maybe Gohan and Friends Ally, or Supreme Kai. Any energy deck, this not that energy decks are necessarily playing the physicals, but it's really I'd rather see their hand, and I think the anger is just so much more beneficial, especially um, being able to on a block cap a ball back with your level 3, um, and helping you kind of seal out the game quicker on your 4. Really, we want to see all that anger when we're on 4 because 4 is just so scary to sit on. And that's kind of one of the issues with Black Garlic, I think, is that he doesn't get to control his anger as well as Red can. Especially like Amplified Garlic can lower his own anger so he can sit on 3 to go for a ball out or bide his time. Whereas we are really trying to hit 3, but the big part about playing, and this has always been the big skill set of Garlic playing them, is just knowing when to play your anger cards and when to be on 3. And if your opponent's still got 3 cards in his hand, and you have 2 or 3 cards in your hand, you're at like 3-4 anger on Garlic 3, you should probably not level until he's down to like at least 2 cards, especially if he's a beats deck, because you can get turned around pretty easily on your 4. And then finally the Flash Black Knee Catch, of course, 2 anger, you know. But yeah, I think this list isn't that terrible. I think there's actually some potential in this. And as far as I like to crap on Garlic too, and I know a lot of people do, but he's really not as bad. It's just he's kind of outclassed by other people. He's just so linear. You know what he's going to be doing all game. He can really fly up, but he stalls on. He can stall on 3 quite a bit. He really doesn't want to go off 3, and the biggest issue is you got to play him with board anger, and that's why Red Garlic is probably the most superior Garlic and always has been, is purely because you can put board anger out that can help you get around that level 4 weakness. Retribution was also good for the reason that you could run Crying Drill and Retribution Mastery when you're on 4 to get 3 anger, on board, which is just like the hugest, and then having the board blocks too. It's just the problem is being on 4 and people just hold their anger to the anti-anger till you're on level 4. But that's also why you run 7 Dragon Balls, and that's why a smart Garlic player is able to ball out properly. At the same time, you have to make sure that you can survive long enough to ball out, because if people might not be critting your balls on 3, but they can deck you out. So just playing smart on 3 especially is where a good Garlic player comes in, and maybe a good Garlic player could run this pretty well. I still think the red version would be superior, Red Ascension, and I actually have that deck made. Had Ryan asked for that goddamn deck, but had to be Perceptive. So maybe you guys want like a trolley deck to play. Maybe you want to force someone this. Maybe you want to just give someone this in Mystery Box, which I think there was a good comment by Ryan about how Mystery Box is really fun when people don't just submit OP, decks, which I totally agree. I like the idea of Mystery Box, but damn, when I get the crappiest deck ever, like and I know that there's people with like C and Broly, it's just how am I, what is my will to play anymore? But I'm still glad that that format exists. I think that just mostly comes down to the players and random luck. So, but hey, I think maybe if you have a good suggestion for this list, a couple cards could change out of here. Numbers could change, I suppose. Hug Maneuver could always make it in. Maybe I'm playing too many blocks. Maybe I'm not playing enough blocks. Maybe I need to be playing more Destroy Effect cards. I just really don't think any of them really synergize with what Garlic wants. The only good thing about this mastery is that it gives anger in stages. Otherwise, the hit effect, Which, that is one thing I guess I always forget about Perceptive, is the hit effect. So all these really wimpy physicals actually all are rocking pretty hard, if you think about it. Maybe that's a reason not to play Optic Blast. You never know. Sinister Choke, maybe that's an option as well. But or maybe that black sidestep card, that energy block, that if they have 2 balls, and of course this is going to show up, if they have 2 balls of yours, you can cap a ball from them. You never know. So yeah, if you guys really want to give this a shot, otherwise I'll probably be slinging this on Octagon with some of those other decks I've been making videos about. Hopefully this was kind of entertaining. Shout out to Tommy, of course. Mark, okay. I don't mind you, Mark. You're alright guy. I have never met you though. And of course, Ryan, thank you for this suggestion. This is the kind of stuff that I do actually want to see. It's fun building this stuff, and hopefully this is what, like I said, hopefully this was entertaining to you guys, and is a good little watch for you, and then break the boredom. Like as always, you can find my post on Retro about asking about the decks, or you can always just DM me, and make me play some garbage. So, alrighty guys, really appreciate it. Thanks.